Hi, and welcome to another installment of 5 Minutes with Mark. Tonight we're going to continue in the first chapter with Mark verses 9 to 11. The text reads, "In those days Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan. And just as he was coming up out of the water, he saw the heavens torn apart and the Spirit descending like a dove on him. And a voice came from heaven. 'You are my Son, the Beloved. With you I am well pleased.'" So, this is a very short section of the gospel, just 3 verses. But if we look at it, there's really a whole lot of stuff that has been packed into those 3 verses. The first thing is in verse 9. In those days, Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan River. And really, what's packed into that is the first time in the gospel that Jesus actually appears. We don't see anything about Jesus before this other than to say that the book is a book that tells us about Jesus Christ, the Son of God. But here is where we see Jesus first burst on to the public scene. And it's kind of important because this is really the introduction to Jesus in the gospel. And it's a very passive thing. There's not a whole lot of words, and Jesus shows up. He's baptized by John in the Jordan. If you look at some of the other gospels, there's some conversation back and forth between John and Jesus and Matthew. And in Luke, it's a public event. Other people are being baptized. But here it's just kind of this passive thing that happens. Not quite sure what that says. I'm going to have to think about that a bit. My favorite parts come in verse 10 and verse 11. And again, it's a very passive verse, verse 10. There's no action really that's happening because Mark says, and just as he was coming up out of the water, Jesus, he saw the heavens torn apart and the Spirit descending like a dove on him. That heavens torn apart is a wonderful reference. Because when you read Mark's gospel, we're going to get to the end of the gospel and one of the stories that we all know very well, the crucifixion, according to Mark. And as that story is ending and as Jesus is dying, the curtain in the temple is torn apart. And so these kind of serve as bookends to the Gospel of Mark. And really, in the beginning here, when we see the heavens torn apart, it is a telling to us. It's information. It's a proclamation that as the heavens are torn apart, they can never be repaired. It's a way of saying that as Jesus comes into the world is never going to be the same again. The heavens are torn apart. And beyond that, what's going to change? And that's where we get back to that good news that we've heard about twice. And we get back to the idea that in Jesus's baptism, the reign of God is beginning. It's kind of a neat little picture there. And then there's the voice. "You are my Son, the Beloved. With you I am well pleased." The same voice that we see in the Gospel of Luke. Same voice we almost see in Matthew, just a little bit different. But in Mark, this voice from heaven is going to serve a very different purpose. It's kind of showing us, it's kind of a kicking off of the first half of Jesus's ministry. Because as this voice comes from heaven, "You are my beloved, with you I am well pleased," We're also going to see this voice show up at the Transfiguration. And at the Transfiguration, the voice is for the disciples that have gone up the hill with him. And at the Transfiguration, that voice changes. It changes from "you are my son" to "this is my son, the beloved." And it ends with "listen to him." So in a couple of weeks or days, we're going to see where that goes. Um, but for now, the timer has ended the session, and we'll see you another day.